Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Fall 2022 Town Meeting Preview. It is coming to you live on Thursday, October 6th at 6 p.m. We are here in the Great Hall in Town Hall. I'm Steve Trifletti, Plymouth Town Moderator, and I'm joined by a panel. I'm going to begin to my right to introduce Assistant Town Moderator Nicole Manfredi. She's joined by Second Assistant Town Moderator Karen Bukes. And to my left, the Chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee, Kevin Canty. Also, we have our Town Clerk, Kelly McElrath, and we have Lynn Barrett, who's the Director of Finance. I'm just going to begin this evening by asking Nicole. Nicole, could you explain the plan for this evening with respect to questions?
Sure. So in the past, we had asked folks not to use the hand raise feature and to hold questions for the moderator through vVoter. But since we're not using vVoter for a town meeting, there's been a shift in procedures. So this evening, if you wish to communicate with the moderator, similarly to Monday night, you will utilize the hand raise feature and type your question into the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat, and we'll read those questions publicly as they come in, and then the moderator will address them. And since we've shifted to the in-person model, we will be using the clickers on the day of town meeting. I will do a brief tutorial on the morning of, but we're confident all will go smoothly.
Thank you, and that is Nicole Manfredi. She is the Assistant Town Moderator. She's here live, and we do have an audience here in the hall, and for those of you who are here with us, we have the podium for you. You can make sure that the mic is on when you go to the podium and you can speak. The plan for this town meeting is that it'll be in person, and our town clerk, Kelly McElrath, is here. And Kelly, if you could just explain how you see the check-in to be set up for town meeting on October 15th, Kelly.
Thank you, Steve. What the plan will be is we will be using iPad devices that will be checking in the town meeting members. And we plan to do that pretty much outside of the area. We're hoping for good weather. If it's not, we might have you come inside a little bit. But we plan to has people come in, check them in, and then they can go into the lobby, pick up their supplemental documentation, as well as their clickers from Option Technologies, and then proceed into the Performing Arts Center. For any town meeting member that is utilizing the band room, first, if you could send me an email or give me a call to let me know that you plan to be in there, because your clicker needs to be a little bit different than what we are giving town meeting members in the PAC. And that being said, I have 2 or 3 staff members that will be helping me that day, and we'll be visiting the band room periodically and checking in any town meeting members that go directly to the band room. And we will make sure that you have your clickers and your supplemental materials in time for the meeting to start at 8.
Thank you, Kelly McElrath. She is our town clerk. As we stated on Monday evening, the plan for this town meeting, which will be in person, is to have 3 separate rooms for the debate. And the purpose of that is to try to reduce and lower the risk for people who are concerned about the health risks of COVID. There will be the Center for Performing Arts, and in that center, we welcome town meeting members, we welcome the town manager, the town engineer, members of the Advisory and Finance Committee, the Select Board, as well as committee and commission chairpersons and staff to be joining the town manager. In addition, we will have, for those who desire, as the clerk has indicated, we'll have the mask-only room, and that will be the band room, and that will be the room where Second Assistant Town Moderator Karen Bukes will be presiding, and she'll be communicating directly with Nicole Manfredi and with me as the people in that room when they wish to be heard or speak, or whether they have a point of order or an issue with respect to the voting. And I just wanted to say a word about the selection of Karen Bukes. Although Karen is a dear friend, she and her husband, I didn't ask her for that reason. Rather, I asked her because she is a longtime past town meeting member with a lot of experience. She served also with her husband. And as we were trying to navigate the planning for this town meeting, Karen actually called me and gave me some very good sage advice about possibly considering alternatives to how we could proceed in person. And so, Karen, I want to thank you for that, and we're delighted to have you here. Karen, is there anything you'd want to say to the people assembled here this evening?
Well, I'm very honored to be asked, and I thank you very much. It's my honor to serve town meeting.
Thank you, and that's Karen Bukes, and she'll be serving as the second Assistant Town Moderator at Town Meeting. We're also joined this evening by Assistant Town Manager Brad Brothers and Town Manager Derek Brindisi. This Town Meeting preview is live on Comcast Channel 15, Verizon Channel 47, and online at the PACTV Prime channel at pactv.org live. And on PACTV YouTube, it's pactv.org/stream. Now, both the presentation night and the preview will be on PACTV Video Share channel on YouTube. And the replay information of the presentation night and preview night will be announced at the PACTV website, which is pactv.org, Plymouth/Plymouth-Town-Meeting. Town meeting will be live on Saturday, October 15th at 8 a.m. On Comcast Channels 15, Verizon 47, and online at the PACTV Prime channel at pactv.org/live. In preparation for town meeting, there are a number of materials. We have the report and recommendations of the Advisory and Finance Committee. You're also encouraged to have a copy of your charter, which helps govern town meeting, and also our parliamentary handbook is Town Meeting Time. There will also be a motions book. Today, town meeting members received copies of draft motions. We're not final. This is a living document, and we'll continue to work on motions throughout the day. Today, we were receiving some motions, and I will try and give you some advance information regarding them. Tonight's preview is not debate. That is reserved for town meeting. Rather, it's an opportunity to receive further information about where to get materials, which people you might want to contact if you have more questions, and it's an opportunity to ask questions of people who have the information in connection with the motions that are coming before you. We're going to go through the motions. The first motion is that Mr. Scanty moves that the adjourned session of the fall town meeting be held on Saturday, October 29th at 8 a.m. At town meeting, following a motion, we have the maker then speak to the motion. For most of the main motions, with the exception of one, it'll be Kevin Scanty, Chair of the Advisory Finance Committee, and at this time, we welcome Mr. Scanty.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The purpose of this particular motion for the adjourned session is in the event that town meeting does not conclude its business within the span of a single day, we will need to come back and finish before town meeting dissolves. Ordinarily, longtime town meeting members will know that we try and have the adjourned sessions as early as possible after the town meeting's first day, often on the Monday following the Saturday town meeting. Unfortunately, due to the logistical concerns and considerations of the various parties involved, PACTV, the schools, and so on, and OTI technologies, we also we have to coordinate many folks in order to make a town meeting happen. And the earliest that all those particular stars aligned was Saturday, October 29th for the adjourned session at 8 a.m., should that be necessary. Again, this is something that will only be required if we do not finish within one day.
This motion is a majority vote, and all of the votes, whether they are procedural or substantive, will be done with electronic voting with the handset that has the keypad, and as the Assistant Moderator Nicole Manfredi mentioned, she'll do a review with that at the start of town meeting. Article 1 is withdrawn. Article 2A, Supplemental Budget General Fund. We have multiple motions. Mr. Scanty.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. In regards to Article 2A, you will be hearing, as the moderator indicated, and voting upon multiple motions nested within Article 2A at town meeting. However, the Advisory and Finance Committee took this article up as one item. So I will only be speaking in relation to Article 2A once. And with that in mind, in a vote of 9-0 with one abstention, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 2A. Approval of this article will decrease the fiscal year '23 general fund operating budget by $99,009 as detailed in the materials.
And this evening, Lynn Barrett is here, and she's available to answer questions in connection with this. But before I ask her to say a few words, in order to mirror town meeting, what I would be doing at this point, following the motion from Mr. Scanty, would be to then read into the record a motion to amend, which is that Mr. DiNardo, Precinct 17, moves to amend Article 2A, Subcommittee A, by increasing line 4, Town Manager, all other precincts by the amount of $125,000, and to meet this appropriation, said amount shall be transferred from free cash. This procedural motion to amend is a majority vote. So once we finish the debate and there's a motion to close debate, we will first vote on the motion to amend. Mr. DiNardo, could you explain the background for your motion to amend?
Mr. Moderator, thank you. I'm Al Donato, Precinct 17 Vice Chair. In the last year or so, I've attended the Charter Commission meetings, caucus meetings. I've spoken to a number of town meeting members of the need of in-house town counsel. For those at home that don't know what that is, would be legal advice. My previous town that I lived in, I served in town meeting for over 30 years. We had an ease of having the ability of town meeting members to access legal counsel. And it's nothing against KP Law, it's nothing against what's going on, but earlier this year I was contemplating drafting a bylaw, with the horse racing thing. Well, when I tried to access in-house, when I was trying to access counsel, the issue was that it's expensive, and I can understand. I'm sensitive to the administration of watching those costs. We just can't have everyone calling. So I'm looking with this nominal fee, and it's really just to send a message to the administration and to the board that this is where town meeting wants to go. And since then, this past Tuesday, the select board has made a motion to hire in-house town counsel. So things are moving along very quickly. I think it's still important that town meeting go on record. And my argument is this, and with due respect to everyone, the last year and a half, we've seen the scepter of power change. We've seen select board member resign. We've had a special election. We've had a change of the chairman. We've had a couple town managers. So things can change in the future. So, and that's why I continue to proceed with this, is that at least town meeting can say, hey, this is what town meeting wants. The only issue with what was going on with the select board, and I'm probably going to speak at their next meeting, is I respect their authority and what they're doing, but I think there needs to be some conditions to that, because I did see that they were speaking that the attorney that they're hiring is charging $250 an hour, so I'm afraid we're going to get back to that watching the clock thing. So I think going forward, this is a good first step, and we can begin to have the public discussion of what are those parameters? What's that going to look like? In-house town counsel, is he going to give me advice personally through precinct chair? Will it be the same town counsel that will be sitting at future town meetings, or is it going to be KP Law? So the action by the board Tuesday night is great, but I have a list of other questions too, but that's another issue. So tonight in closing, I want to say I'm asking for town meeting to support this transfer in this line item. Thank you.
Thank you, Al DiNardo. Before we move on, anyone have any questions? I would like to have Lynn Barrett just briefly speak. Lynn is the Director of Finance, and she's available to provide information as to many of the motions that are coming before you, not only in this article, but this evening. Lynn, how would people contact you?
So town meeting members can contact me either through email at lbarrett@plymouth-ma.gov, or they can call the office at 508-747-1620, extension 10177. Both Jeanette and I are available to answer any questions to town meeting members. You will continue to get updates from our office until next Friday, with updated motions as they change. We always post the most recent draft motions on the quick links page, town meeting information on our website, so that you have access to the most recent motions as they change. And by all means, if you have any questions, just give us a call or send us an email. Thank you.
Thank you. And this evening, the plan was, unless you're making a presentation as a panelist, we're hoping to have the questions coming from you to the assistant moderator. She'll read them, and then we'll look for a response. I know we have a town meeting member that wanted to be heard, so if we could follow that. In addition, a reminder at town meeting that we're going to go chronologically through the warrant. However, town meeting members can change the order of articles. That's a motion, requires a 2/3 vote. Town meeting members can also move to reconsider a vote. If you vote on the prevailing side and you wish to reconsider, that would be a motion to reconsider, and it's a majority vote. People often ask, why do we have a timer? Well, part of the reason is we're trying to include as many people as possible. If you think back to the June town meeting on some of the important articles on which people wanted to speak, there were a number of people that did not get a chance to speak because there was a motion to close debate. So I encourage, in the spirit of planning and preparation, that you not only review the materials, but perhaps plan your remarks. Maybe take some notes, maybe have an outline, so when you get up to speak, you can speak as efficiently as possible and get all the information in before your allotted time expires. And with that, I'm going to continue. Do we have any questions yet? If not, if you look at the motions that are before you, as Kevin Canty's indicated, he has spoken on a number of them. So, Mr. Canty, we would move to the motions under Article 2B. And under Article 2B, Mr. Canty.
Similar to Article 2A, the Advisory and Finance Committee took Article 2B as one item, but you will be hearing multiple motions nested under Article 2B. With that in mind, in a unanimous vote of 10-0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 2B. Approval of this article will increase the fiscal year 2023 enterprise fund operating budget by $602,804, as detailed in the materials.
You'll see that we have multiple motions under Article 2, and we'll be taking separate votes on these various motions. There are times, however, where things are bundled together, and if you do wish to separate, you can make a motion to divide. And today, we were receiving an email from a town meeting member who may wish to make a motion to divide on a later article. I'll reference that. Again, for all of these, the point person for answering questions and getting materials would be the Director of Finance, Lynn Barrett. If there are no other questions and comments, I'm going to go to Article 3, the unpaid bills of a prior year. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 10-0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 3. Approval of this article will authorize the Finance Department to process the outstanding invoices from fiscal year 2022 as detailed and explained in the materials.
Now, this is a 4/5 vote, and so unlike the prior votes, which are majority vote, this is 4/5. Lynn Barrett, why is it 4/5?
Because it's an annual town meeting, and a special requires 9/10.
Thank you. So it's a 4/5 vote for this particular article. And if there are no further questions or comments, we're going to move on to Article 4. And we first have on the capital outlay recommendations, we have the A group. Now, the motion has them all together. However, today, a town meeting member was in contact with us about dividing. I'd ask that town meeting member to further be in contact directly with me in order we can discuss whether we'll be dividing all 8 separately or whether there would be some we'd be pulling out and voting separately. Mr. Canty on Article 4, the A group.
So again, the Advisory and Finance Committee heard Article 4 as one item and voted on it as such. However, you will be hearing at present a few, perhaps more as things develop, motions in regards to town meeting Article 4. With that in mind, in a unanimous vote of 11-0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 4's capital appropriations as listed and detailed within the materials.
And Mr. Canty, just for clarification, is that as to the A and the B group?
That is.
And town meeting members will be voting the B group separately, each one. Those are 2/3 vote due to either borrowing or conveyance. And again, all be done electronically. Any other questions and comments? For B1, we have David Gould available to answer questions. For B2, Fire Chief Neil Foley. For B3, we have Jonathan Beater, who is the Director of the Department of Public Works. And they're available to answer questions. And at this time, if there are no further questions on that, I'm going to go to Article 5, Pavement Management Stabilization Fund. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 10-0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 5. Approval of this article will authorize the town to transfer $1,498,012.70 from free cash to the Pavement Management Plan Debt Stabilization Fund for future use as it relates to road repair, maintenance, and/or construction within the town. This amount is the excess of actual motor vehicle excise receipts over the amount budgeted for fiscal year '22. The current balance in the fund is $3,544,398.04. As with all stabilization funds, a 2/3 vote of town meeting would be required for any future withdrawals from the stabilization fund.
Thank you. Lynn Barrett's available to answer questions. Any comments? I would like to say at town meeting, we have a question on Nicole Manfredi.
Don Williams asks, what is this money going towards?
And responding, Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance.
So town meeting established many years ago the Pavement Management Debt Stabilization Fund. And the purpose of this fund is to accumulate the excess motor vehicle excise receipts that come in over what we budget on an annual basis. And then the money in this fund is then used to pay the principal and interest on the road improvement plan capital outlay that's voted at town meeting. We vote $5 million every couple of years to do road repairs and upgrades. And so the money in this fund then gets transferred during our annual town meeting under Article 7, the budget. We'll transfer money from the Pavement Management Fund to pay the principal and interest on that program, that road program.
Thank you, Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance. At town meeting, I want to encourage town meeting members who intend to speak, or if you know you're going to maybe speak and ask a question, to please sit more towards the front of the Center for Performing Arts. This is the first in-person town meeting since we increased by 3 precincts. And in the past, it's been a challenge for us to see and recognize town meeting members sit at the back of the front area. So while you can sit wherever you want and you can raise your hand if you want to speak, if you haven't planned ahead of time, nevertheless, if you think you will be getting up, I encourage you to sit close to the front so that you'll be seen. We're going to try to avoid having long queues of people in the aisles. And so with that, again, I want to renew my request that if you know in advance of town meeting that you wish to be a speaker, please contact me and we will add you to the speakers list. And at town meeting, I'm going to begin with the speakers list unless someone wishes to interrupt the meeting with a point of order or with a motion. So otherwise, I'm going to go to the speakers list first and ask people to stay seated until we get through the speakers list, and then we'll go to other people who raise their hand. If you're going to do a presentation, encourage you to come down front to the podium at the start of the reading of the article. And Nicole Manfredi.
Lynn, Dawn replied to what you just said with, but now there's no pavement plan. I'm not sure.
Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, further responding.
So the pavement, the road improvement program, we actually voted this past spring at the annual town meeting another $5 million to be spent on the plan. So the plan is under the DPW superintendent's jurisdiction and the engineering department on what roads and sidewalks or drainage that they're going to do every year. So that's the plan. It exists, and then they go down that plan and they do the priorities with that amount of money. And then in a couple of years, we'll vote another $5 million. That's sort of been the process in the last few years.
Thank you, Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance. I just want to clarify that at town meeting, there'll be a third person presiding in the library, and that is our new Assistant Town Clerk. And Kelly, who is that?
Hi, her name is Alvera Galino, and she just started on Monday, so we're going to bring her up to speed very fast.
Thank you, and that was Kelly McIlrath. She is our town clerk, and so the assistant town clerk will be presiding in that room, and she'll be helping us coordinate the speakers. There'll be live audio and video in all 3 rooms, and we will be utilizing the technology. So again, I'm aware of some members of the public who are not town meeting members who wish to be heard at town meeting, and if you can contact us in advance, we'll coordinate with the assistant town clerk who'll be in the library, just as we're coordinating with second assistant town moderator Karen Bukes in the band room, so that we can make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be heard at town meeting. Next article, Article 6, is Elderly and Disabled Taxation Fund. Mr. Scanty.
In a vote of 9-2 with 2 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 6. Approval of this article will authorize the establishment of an elderly and disabled taxation fund for the purpose of defraying real estate taxes of elderly and disabled persons of low income, and the creation of a taxation aid committee to develop rules and regulations for the program and to administer the fund. Accepting the provisions of the statute would give Plymouth taxpayers the option to voluntarily elect to donate into the fund above the amount they would otherwise owe on their tax bill in order to contribute to said fund. All funds collected would be deposited to an interest-bearing account under the custody of the town treasurer.
Thank you. And Brad Brothers, Assistant Town Manager, is available to answer any questions. Mr. Brothers is here this evening. Welcome, Brad Brothers. Anything you want to add with this?
Nope, I would just add that I came on board to the town back in April, and this was one of the board's first requests, so the select board had put this out for a initial starting of the fund, and that's why it's on the warrant.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Brad Brothers, the town manager, and certainly the town manager, Derek Brindisi, have been instrumental in helping us in the planning of town meeting. I would take this moment to let town meeting members know that at the start of town meeting for this year, our opening ceremonies are going to be contained within the room and led by town meeting members. Longtime senior town meeting member Leonard Vaz, Precinct 1, will be leading us in a salute to the flag. I see in the room tonight, Ginny Davis is here, longtime town meeting member, and her daughter, town meeting member Nancy Davis, will be performing the national anthem, followed by town meeting member Robert Trossel, who attended and graduated from seminary. He has a master's in divinity, and he'll be offering the invocation. So we will have 3 town meeting members doing our opening ceremonies. Prior to the start of town meeting, the Plymouth Music Association will be in the cafeteria. They'll be providing coffee, beverage, and goodies for town meeting members. They'll also be available at the recess at 10 o'clock, and at the approximate noon hour, the food service for the Plymouth Public Schools will be providing box lunch sandwiches or salads, both in the cafeteria and also outside for those people that prefer not to be indoors eating. That will be available to you at this town meeting. And now we're going to continue on. The next article, Article 7, has been withdrawn, and therefore we go to Article 8, and that is property acquisition off of State Road. It's a 2/3 vote. Mr. Scanty.
In a unanimous vote of 13-0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 8. Approval of this article will authorize the Select Board to purchase an abutting parcel shown on the plan included in the materials to accommodate the construction of a new driveway on the north side of the fire station and to make all necessary improvements to accommodate the project as it progresses. If approved, the acquisition will be fully funded from money previously authorized by town meeting for this project in Article 5 of the April 2022 special town meeting.
This is a 2/3 vote, and Fire Chief Neil Foley is available to answer questions. If there are no comments, we're going to continue with the Article 9 Community Preservation Committee articles, CPC, and we have with us this evening Mr. Cohen, who is the chair of that committee. We're going to first begin with 9A, purchase of open space off of Carver Road. Ms. Scanty.
In a vote of 10-1 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 9A. Approval of this article will authorize the town to purchase 99.5 acres of land, which directly abuts and surrounds the Darby Pond well area, providing further protection to the town's Zone 1 and Zone 2 wellhead protection area. This area is a significant source of drinking water for Plymouth's residents. In addition to protecting the aquifer, this acquisition will protect rare, unique, and endangered plant and wildlife that have made their homes there and preserve this large tract of land for passive recreation use by the public.
Mr. Cohen, do you care to be heard on making any comments on 9A? He's available. Mr. Cohen, if you can just come to the microphone. How are you available? How would people contact you?
I'm available for any questions pertaining to this Article 9A, which is a recommendation by the Committee for Land Acquisition, mostly for the purpose of protecting our water supply at Darby Pond. But there will be a passive recreational aspect, but people can contact me at billgohan@gmail.com or 508-789-5012. Contact Town Hall. They'll be more than happy to put you in contact with the committee.
Thank you. That's William Cohen. He is the chair of the Community Preservation Committee. We'll move on. Article 9B, Historical Preservation, the Spire Center. Mr. Scanty.
In a unanimous vote of 11 to 0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 9B. Approval of this article will authorize a grant to the Greater Plymouth Performing Arts Center, the nonprofit organization that operates the venue pursuant to a 100-year lease agreement it has with the town, for the historical restoration of the facade of the 1884 building that houses the Spire Center for the Performing Arts located in the heart of downtown Plymouth.
Thank you. This is also a 2/3 vote. Mr. Cohen is here to answer any questions. And we'll move on to Article 9C, purchase open space off Stevens Lane. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 11 to 0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 9C. Approval of this article will authorize the town to purchase this half-acre parcel off Stevens Lane. This parcel directly abuts the town's Stevens Field complex and would serve to expand the open and recreational space of the complex consistent with the Stevens Field Park Master Plan.
And this is a majority vote. Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, there's no borrowing on this now? Is that correct?
You're referring to Article 9C?
Correct.
There's no borrowing on 9C, but there's borrowing on 9B.
It's 9B, yes,
The
on
one.
9B. Right. So now it's 9C is a majority. And any questions on that? If not, we're going to go to 9D. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 11 to 0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 9D. Approval of this article will authorize a grant to Safe Harbors for the historical restoration of the facade, cupola, and interior of the 1857 Plymouth Foundry, known as the Marina, located on Water and Union Street. The renovations would include public restrooms, a much-needed addition to this area of the waterfront. If this article is approved by town meeting, the CPC is hopeful that Safe Harbors Marinas, LLC, the present owners of the building, will agree to have this work undertaken on this historic structure. Safe Harbors had planned to demolish the building, but the town's demolition delay bylaw gave the area residents and CPC time to put this counter-proposal together.
Thank you. And on 9D, the 1897 Plymouth Foundry Marina, I understand this is now a majority, and it is not a 2/3. Is that correct? There's no borrowing involved?
There's no borrowing involved.
Thank you. Any further questions? If not, we're going to move to Article 10. We're now coming to zoning bylaws, unified complex, and Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 to 0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 10. Approval of this article will amend the zoning bylaw, Section 203-1, lot regulations, to expand the locations where unified complexes are allowed, to include the Airport District, Mixed Commercial District, Highway Commercial District, and the Cedarville Village Enterprise District. This would permit a single lot to contain multiple smaller structures and encourage the use of these areas by a greater number of potential businesses that may wish to operate in these areas. This amendment applies only to structures and is intended to responsibly maximize commercial development on the town's limited remaining industrial land.
Zoning bylaw changes require a 2/3 vote, which you have here. Lee Hartman is the Director of Planning and Development, and he's available for information and materials. We'll continue with town meeting on Saturday, October 15th, beginning at 8 a.m., and we will continue until we receive a motion to adjourn. Town meeting members may recall that earlier this year, at one session of town meeting, we continued to meet for nearly 11 hours. And so town meeting can make a motion to adjourn at any time, but absent a motion to adjourn, we will continue to debate the articles as presented. And now we're going to go to Article 11, zoning bylaw amend use table. Ms. Scanty.
In a unanimous vote of 12-0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 11. Approval of this article will amend the zoning bylaw use table to change the designation of some currently prohibited and special permit uses to make them allowed uses, and to change some other currently prohibited uses into uses requiring a special permit. The intent of this amendment is to expand the range of lower-intensity commercial uses permitted in Plymouth's commercial and industrial zoning districts.
Again, Lee Hartman is Director of Planning and Development. Today, I did receive a motion to amend. I received it after a copy of the motions were sent out to town meeting members or made available by printing. So I'm going to read you the motion. You'll get a packet before town meeting that'll contain all the motions that I received prior to town meeting. Again, a reminder to town meeting members, please try to present your motions as soon as possible. You heard from Mr. DiNardo early this evening. I want to thank him for getting his motion to me well in advance. We tweaked it so that it was satisfactory to him and to me and to town council. And we do the same with all the motions. And the one I received today for this motion under Article 11, Mr. Stone, town meeting member, moves to amend the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw use table E, industrial, in the row labeled heavy equipment sale and service by deleting Y as proposed therein for the LI and AP commercial districts and retaining SP as appears in the current zoning bylaw use table, thereby permitting heavy equipment sale and service to be allowed only by special permit in those districts. Now, think about it. We're talking about a bylaw, and we're talking about changing a law. And thank you to Mr. Stone for contacting me in advance. We were working with Lee Hartman, Director of Planning and Development, and his staff, working with Town Council in order to come up with satisfactory language procedurally that could be presented to town meeting. A warning to town meeting members: if you plan to rewrite a bylaw on town meeting floor, it's highly likely that I may not accept your motion because it's necessary to spend time and research, but also to provide it in writing to town meeting members. What I just read to you probably sounds to people like a lot of legalese and gobbledygook, and you need to have it in front of you in writing so that you can read it, because words matter, punctuation matters, and we need to get it right. So thank you to Mr. Stone. We'll get this out to town meeting members. I will accept it. A motion to amend on a main motion with 2/3 doesn't change the quantum to vote on the procedural motion. So although the main motion for Mr. Scanty is a 2/3 vote, the motion to amend is only a majority vote. And so town meeting will vote the various motions to amend up or down, and then you'll vote the main motion as amended or not. So that's on Article 11. More to that to come before you. Mr. Hartman is not here this evening, but the town manager is here. Welcome, Derek Brindisi. Mr. Brindisi, anything else you'd like to add with respect to these zoning articles?
Nothing at this time, no. I'll defer to town meeting.
Thank you. And at this time, we're going to continue with Article 12, amend Council on Aging Meals on Wheels revolving fund. Mr. Scanty.
In a unanimous vote of 10-0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 12. Approval of this article will amend the Council on Aging Meals on Wheels revolving fund to include the Center for Active Living's cafe nutrition programs, contractual services, and other related expenses and revenues within the revolving fund.
Thank you. And again, Lynn Barrett is available to answer questions, and it's a majority vote for this particular article. Article 13, the Retirement Board COLA. Scanty.
In a unanimous vote of 13-0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 13. Approval of this article will increase the current cost of living base for retirees from $14,000 to $16,000. This is the maximum base amount on which these retirees' cost of living adjustment, otherwise known as COLA, is calculated. This base has not seen an increase since the year 2011.
Thank you, Mr. Canty. Lynn Barrett, again, available to answer questions on Article 13. And we're going to continue with Article 14. But before we do that, I do want to mention to town meeting members that at the conclusion of all of the articles, absent any motions, I will be receiving a motion to dissolve. A motion to dissolve, if acted favorably, ends town meeting. And so if you vote to dissolve town meeting, then you can't go back. It's probably not as significant at this fall town meeting because we don't have a special. But for new town meeting members, in the spring, when we have a special town meeting warrant that we debate prior to the annual town meeting warrant, once we complete the warrant and the motions, if there's a motion to dissolve in the morning, and we dissolve, and then in the afternoon we go to the annual, and someone wants to move to reconsider, it's too late. Once you dissolve a town meeting, it's over. So just keep that in mind, town meeting members. I'm now going to go to Nicole Manfredi, Assistant Town Moderator. She has another question.
The question is, it's a procedural question. Will there be period of time for debate on a motion to amend separate from debate on the main motion? For example, if a motion to amend is made and during a debate, a motion to close debate is made, does that close debate for both the motion to amend and the main motion?
Good question. Historically, what I've done in order to get everything in front of town meeting, I've taken up the motions to amend right after the main motion. So just using Mr. DiNardo, who's here with us this evening, as an example, after Mr. Canty makes his comments on his main motion under that article, rather than start debating the main motion, I will immediately go to Mr. DiNardo. He'll present and argue his motion to amend, and we'll debate it. Now, it may be that as we debate his motion to amend, there may be people that don't talk about the motion to amend, but talk about the main motion, and rather than delay town meeting and rule people out of order, I'm going to allow any debate that is pertinent to both the main motion and the motion to amend. However, once there's a motion to close debate, I will treat that as a motion to close debate on the motion to amend. We will then vote it up or down. It'll only be on the motion to amend, and then, once we've voted it and completed it, then we'll go back to the main motion, and I will allow additional debate on the main motion, as amended or not, until there's another motion to close debate. So that answers that question, I think. And if there are no other questions, we're going to go to Article 14, Nor'easter Storm Funding. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 10-0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 14. Approval of this article will authorize the transfer of $130,050.19 from free cash to the general fund to cover emergency expenditures resulting from the October 2021 nor'easter that struck Plymouth, causing extensive power line, tree, and roadway damages. Unfortunately, these expenses were not FEMA reimbursable and must instead be paid by the town.
Thank you. It's a majority vote. Lynn Barrett available to answer questions. For those of you that wish to be in contact with me, you can call me at 508-746-1464 or email me fst@plymouthlaw.com. Article 15, establishing a speed limit. Mr. Canty.
In a vote of 7 to 5 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 15. Approval of this article will authorize the Select Board to establish a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on roadways inside thickly settled or business districts in the town on any road that is not a state highway that does not currently have a posted speed limit. If approved by town meeting, this would permit the Select Board to vote to lower the speed limit on any individual roads in thickly settled or business districts that do not already have a posted speed limit, should they choose to do so. Any change to the speed limit would be communicated to residents by the posting of speed limit signs on the impacted road.
And Jonathan Beater, Director of Department of Public Works, is available to answer questions. Mr. Scanty, will you be having a meeting of the Advisory and Finance Committee posted for a time prior to town meeting?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, we will be meeting on Wednesday, October 12th. In the past, pre-COVID times, the Advisory and Finance Committee's last meeting prior to town meeting happened about a half hour before town meeting itself on the Saturday morning. However, due to all of the logistical challenges involved in having our first in-person town meeting since COVID changed everything, I am of the opinion that there's too much going on at Plymouth North that morning for us to meet for 30 minutes that morning prior to town meeting. And instead, as we have done since the COVID pandemic began, we will be having our last meeting prior to town meeting on the Wednesday before that Saturday. So
Thank
that
you.
will be our last meeting.
And Mr. Canty will be making some open remarks at town meeting. Nicole Manfredi, Assistant Town Moderator, a question.
Don Williams asks, will the police be advised to increase enforcement as part of this change?
Again, Jonathan Beater is not here. We'll go to Derek Brindisi, Town Manager. A question on Article 15.
Yeah, so once this article is approved and those roads are posted appropriately, certainly the police department will be well informed in advance of those new postings.
Thank you. And while we have recognized Mr. Brindisi, Mr. Brindisi, you understand that the Select Board Chair, Betty Cavaco, will be making some opening remarks at town meeting. And will there be a posted meeting of the Select Board on the day of town meeting?
I would expect that we will, yes,
And do we know where they will be convening?
in the auditorium.
All right, thank you. And at this time, Article 16, amend the bylaw plastic bag ban definitions. Mr. Canty.
In a vote of 10 to 2 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 16. Approval of this article will amend the Town of Plymouth Bylaw, Chapter 132, Section 1, by changing the definition of reusable carryout bag to further discourage large retailers and supermarkets in Plymouth from distributing disposable plastic shopping bags. The original plastic bag bylaw has been largely successful in its intent, but recently some stores have been distributing thicker, multiple-use plastic bags to customers at no charge. It is believed that this removes the incentive to reuse these bags, thereby defeating the purpose of the ban. This new definition strengthens the ban and preserves its original intent, which was to reduce plastic bag litter and encourage customers to bring their own reusable bags into stores.
Thank you. For further information, you can contact the Open Space Committee, also town meeting member Kenneth Stone, and he can be reached at kenstone1016@gmail. And that is on Article 16. Article 17 is withdrawn. 18 is withdrawn. Article 19, increased parking fines. This matter, Betty Cavaco moves the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to petition the Massachusetts General Court for special legislation as contained in the article in regards to the increase of certain maximum fines for motor vehicle parking violations, provided, however, that the General Court may make clerical or editorial changes of form only to the bill unless the Select Board approves amendments to the bill before enactment. Derek Brindisi is here, Town Manager on behalf of the Select Board. Mr. Brindisi.
I'm happy to answer any questions relative to this article. If you'd like me to spend a few minutes describing it, I'm happy to do that as well.
If you would like to make a brief presentation similar to Mr. Canty's comments.
Sure. So this is a home rule petition that would allow, if approved by town meeting and then through this legislature, would allow the town to increase parking fines in only parking districts that require a beach sticker. Right now, the town only has one parking district that requires a beach sticker. So that's the White Horse Beach Parking District. So if this was in effect today, in theory, the select board could increase parking fines with the ceiling up to $150 for illegal parking. The intent behind this article is to try to remedy numerous problems that the town has experienced throughout the summer months, specifically in the areas of Drew Road, Fresh Pond, and Morton Park. If this were to be approved, we would expect that the town will go through a process to identify additional parking districts in those three areas I just named, and then go ahead and apply these new parking fines to those areas. But I think it's important to note that this is a ceiling of $150. It's just a maximum amount. The board certainly would not have to increase it to that amount. Right now, the maximum amount the board can impose illegal parking is $50. Thank you.
Thank you. And so in order to mirror town meeting, we would have first the presentation from Betty Cavaco or her designee, and then we'll hear from the Advisory and Finance Committee. Mr. Canty.
In a vote of 0 in favor, 12 in opposition, and 1 abstention, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends that town meeting does not approve Article 19. The committee felt that the article language presented to us was too broad. The town cited illegal parking in the White Horse Beach area and also at places such as Morton Park and Fresh Pond as the justification for raising parking fines. However, the language that came before the committee would have permitted the raising of parking fines anywhere in town, not just in these problematic areas. The committee felt the town should narrow the scope of the article to target only these problematic areas. Some committee members also felt that the dollar amounts of the increased fines were excessive and unfriendly to visitors of Plymouth. After the Advisory and Finance Committee's deliberations and negative recommendation on the original article language, the Select Board voted to change the bylaw to specify, quote, within parking districts in town that require a beach sticker, end quote. The proposed dollar amounts of the increased fines remain unchanged from when it was presented to the committee.
Thank you, Kevin Canty. Article 20 is withdrawn. Article 21 is withdrawn. Before I come to Article 22, I do wish to reiterate what was mentioned in passing earlier, and that is that if you are a town meeting member and you wish to be in the mask-only room, please contact the town clerk, Kelly McElrath, and provide her in advance. And the reason for that is we need to coordinate the handset keypads with the people who are in that room, because every town meeting member is going to be assigned a keypad in advance, and it matters in which room you intend to be located. Kelly, how do people contact you?
I'm sorry, I was referring to some bylaw changes. Contact me. You can definitely email me or call me at 508-330. Oh, my goodness, I don't even know my number. Let's change that to 508-747-1620, extension 10170. Sorry about that.
Thank you, and that's Kelly McElrath. She is the town clerk. I'm also going to go to the second assistant town moderator, Karen Bukes. It would be helpful if you could copy her, if you're emailing, and copy me. Karen, how would someone reach you if they wanted to notify you that they're going to be with you in the mask-only room?
Well, they could call me, they could email me. Do you want both?
Yes.
Phone number 781-361-0749. Email luckystars@aol.com, LUCKYSTZ@aol.com.
Thank you, and that's Karen Bukes. She'll be in the mask-only room presiding and in communication with Nicole Manfredi and with me. And you can also notify her if you intend to be in that room with her, which is adjacent pretty much to the Center for Performing Arts, also close to the cafeteria, and there are restrooms also in that area. We're next going to go to Article 22. It's a petitioned article, and for that, we have Mr. Canty's motion. Mr. Canty.
In a vote of 9 in favor, 1 in opposition, and 1 abstention, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 22. Approval of this article will authorize the Select Board to petition the General Court for special legislation that would require any entity seeking to open and operate a horse racing facility in Plymouth to get the approval of Plymouth's registered voters, the Select Board, and town meeting before it could do so. Some members of the committee pointed out that this legislation is somewhat redundant, since the town can already pass zoning bylaws to prohibit or restrict horse racing in Plymouth. However, most of the committee felt that further safeguards were desirable in this instance.
Thank you, Mr. Canty. And on the presentation night, we received comments from Richard Cirque, town meeting member. He's here with us this evening virtually. I'd like to welcome Richard Cirque. Mr. Cirque, what else would you like to add to that presentation?
Well, for those who are unfamiliar with the background, I'd like to state the following. Plymouth County owns a 110.5 acre parcel of land off the east side of Long Pond Road and the south side of Camelot Drive, known as the Woodlot. The county commissioners have entered into a lease of the Woodlot, having a potential term of 73 years with an entity known as Boston South. Boston South wants to build a horse racing track on the Woodlot. In a non-binding referendum vote at the town election last May, 82% of the voters indicated that they are not in favor of a gambling facility or a horse racing track on the Woodlot. Under current state law, there can be no horse racing without the approval of the Select Board. And on June 8th, the Select Board voted unanimously not to support a gambling facility or horse racing track in Plymouth. But state law could change, and future Select Boards may think differently. This home rule bill would, in addition to requiring approval by the Select Board, require the approval of town meeting and town voters for any location proposed to be used for horse racing. Finally, under current law, no horse track can be located on property owned by the county. But again, state law could change. So passage of this article will give a clear message to the legislature and the Gaming Commission that the citizens of Plymouth demand local control on horse racing in our town. It's what attorneys sometimes refer to as wearing belt and suspenders in order to ensure your pants stay up.
Thank you, Richard Cirque, town meeting member, on Article 22. Now, for those of you that are here in person, as well as those of you who may be watching either the original cable cast now or on a replay, you may wonder, how come we can't have a hybrid town meeting, but we're doing a hybrid preview? Well, the answer is, it is possible to have hybrid meetings for boards and commissions, and also for a preview such as this, for presentation night. So tonight we've had a hybrid. We've had Assistant Town Moderator Nicole Manfredi on the chat, giving us the questions from town meeting members. We just brought in Mr. Cirque, who was able to speak and participate remotely, and that's allowable. However, for the actual town meeting, state legislation only permits in-person or remote, either or, but no hybrid yet. we're waiting. I have been told by our legislative delegation that we might expect a favorable vote from the House by the end of this calendar year. And with that, I'd like to first ask, are there any members of our in-person panel that have anything else they want to say before we conclude the preview? If not, anyone else in the room have any questions? I'd like to thank Nicole Manfredi for joining us, Assistant Town Moderator, Karen Bukes, the second Assistant Town Moderator, who will be in the mask-only room. We have Kevin Canty, the Chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee, Derek Brindisi, he is our Town Manager, Brad Brothers is our Assistant Town Manager. We're joined by Kelly McElraith, she is our Town Clerk, and Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance. I'm Steve Trifletti, Plymouth Town Moderator. Thank you for joining us, and this concludes the 2022 Fall Annual Town Meeting Preview. Good evening.